Hello everyone, Bill Peterson here. Welcome to our discussion to introduce part two of our channel topic. This one will focus on the area of retail. Once again, I'm recording this in advance of class so that we can get some of the conceptual information out of the way, preserving our time while we're together in class to talk about some examples. Retailing, of course, is the set of functions that occur when we make our product available for sale to a consumer. Whether we perform retailing functions ourselves with a direct channel, or we use intermediaries like a retailer to perform these functions, retailing is all about the activities directly related to the sale of our products to our consumer customers. This is really important because a channel really is the interface to our customers. And in the case of consumer customers, it's all about retailing. Much of what they see about our company and our products are going to be determined by how well we present this retailing interface to our customers. It wasn't always this way. Retailing has only been around in a formal way for only maybe a couple hundred years. Prior to that, most people in the US and around the world for that matter were consumed with putting food on the table for their families. It was all about agriculture and raising livestock, those types of activities. Over time, though, as people did that, as they raised crops, for example, they got better and better at it, eventually creating surpluses. They could produce more food than they actually needed. They could sell those surpluses, make money with it, and suddenly they had expendable income. Enter some enterprising business people who decided to give people a way to spend that money, and that gave rise to the first retail concept, which could be considered to be the general store. If you watch cowboy movies or read books about the Wild West, you've heard about general stores. These were little stores that would pop up in whatever towns existed back then, and they would sell whatever products they could sell in any kind of reasonable volume. Groceries or medicine or clothing or tools or furniture, whatever people wanted to buy and had money for, these general stores would try to make available. Over time, of course, retail grew. People had more money to spend. Retail got to be a bigger industry. The market fragmented and different types of retail emerged. In fact, here's a little video from the Wall Street Journal. It's about 2 minutes long, discussing some of the history of retail from this time period to the current day.
Back when Main Street was the retail hub, mom and pop stores were in their heyday. Then a new kind of shopping center sprouted up in the suburbs: malls. In 1956, the first fully enclosed shopping mall opened in the suburbs of Minneapolis, giving way to hundreds of shopping centers in towns across the country. Soon after came the category killers such as Barnes & Noble, Home Depot, and Toys R Us, as well as superstores like Walmart and Target. Mom and pops were no match for these giant retailers that offered everything under one roof at low prices. The building boom left the US with too many retail stores. We have more than 5 times the gross leasable space per capita as the UK. Except for a few spikes around Easter and Christmas, foot traffic to malls has been declining since 2014. Just 10 years ago, 24% of people polled by America's Research Group said they noticed mall store vacancies. Today, that number has doubled. Big box stores located in strip centers aren't immune from the shakeout either. Nearly 20 retail chains, including Sports Authority and Radio Shack, have filed for bankruptcy in the last 2 years. The new winner? Amazon. About 27% of survey respondents said they plan to purchase more from the online retailer this year. E-commerce in general is capturing retail shoppers. In the final quarter of last year, online sales accounted for 17% of all retail sales, more than 3 times what it was a decade ago. No one expects brick-and-mortar stores to go away entirely, but where we will be a decade from now is a question no one can really predict.
Retailing, of course, has grown to be a major part of the economy. And if you look at some of the data that exists, you can see that retailing is a multi-trillion-dollar business. The figures for retail revenue vary quite a bit. You can see different numbers floating around. Some measures include, for example, automobile sales, some don't. So there's a wide range of the estimate of the contribution of retail to the economy in the U.S. But suffice it to say, it's an enormous part of the economy, employing several million, actually many millions of workers, and having several million retail establishments in the United States. Retailing, if done right, provides a lot of value to customers. It provides one more reason for people to buy from us, and of course, is part of the place P, which is one of the 4 ways we have to create value for our customers. Retailing creates value in at least these ways. First of all, product selection. Whenever a customer has a job for which they want to hire a product, clearly they have some product criteria in mind. Well, retailers oftentimes will do some of that work for their customers. I took this picture down at, Whole Foods, downtown Austin, and this was a sign on the wall. We carefully evaluate each and every product that we sell. We feature foods that are free of artificial preservatives, colors, flavors, etc. So if those things are important to you, you can go to Whole Foods and shop there with the knowledge that all the foods you see on the shelf have those characteristics. And in that way, Whole Foods has done some of the work for you. Also, retailers make available the products when and where you want to buy. Hopefully they do. Make it convenient for you to get to their store or their website. And if it's a brick and mortar store, it's a place to park and helpful service. They have complementary products, installation services, or maybe there's accessories that need to be included with the product you want to buy. Many times retailers will have those. Shopping assistance. Many times we, as consumers, view salespeople as kind of a pain, and they're kind of irritating. But really, in a lot of cases, salespeople can be very helpful and help us to make the choices that we need to make. So there are a lot of ways that retailers hopefully create value for customers, and we need to be obviously thinking about that as part of the value creation we have for our consumers. Some of the largest companies in the world are retailers. In fact, the largest company in the world is a retailer. Walmart has almost $500 billion in sales last year. And according to Fortune magazine, which ranks the 500 largest companies in the world, Walmart is the largest. Some of the others include CVS, of course, a pharmacy. Amazon, we know about that company. That's probably the fastest growing company on this chart, certainly to grow, to climb in the ranks next year. We'll talk a lot about Amazon during our retailing discussion. And Costco, and you can see the rest of the retailers here that make up some of the largest companies that Fortune magazine surveys. So these retailers are so large and so important and so often preferred by the customers we want to sell to that we have to be there. Many times if we're selling a consumer product, if our customers, our target market wants to buy at a particular retailer, we kind of have to be there. And so we have to comply with the retailer's demands for us to put our products on their shelves. They can be pretty demanding because they have all the customers coming to their stores or to their website. In addition to allowing them the markup on products, which is essentially the retailer capturing part of the value that we create for our customers, sometimes we have to go above and beyond that, especially in the grocery business. There are these things called slotting fees, or as this article describes, calls them bribes, where food manufacturers must pay the store chain in order to get products on their shelves. As much as $1 million per supermarket chain per product is what's required just to get our products on their shelves, in addition to allowing them to make a markup on our product. In the case of financial services products like mutual funds or ETFs, if you're a company that produces those products for customers, many times the consumers you want to reach have brokerage accounts at places like Charles Schwab. Well, if you want to be there on the Charles Schwab website and make your product available to those customers, you have to pay a fee to Charles Schwab just for the right to sell your product to their customers. So retailers have become so big and powerful that they can extort money in this way from producers. Just another example of how important retailers have become in the overall U.S. commerce. Here's one retailer in particular that you may be familiar with. Sephora sells cosmetics primarily through their brick and mortar locations. And they have such a well-known retail location, they have so many customers going there that the cosmetic producers that want to sell through Sephora have to pay up. Matter of fact, at Sephora, if you want to sell your cosmetics products, typically they'll take a 60% markup, even higher than other retail locations. Additionally, many times they will demand that producers give exclusive rights to Sephora. In other words, they will not allow you to sell your products at other retailers. And in fact, there was one case where there was a producer already selling their product through another retailer, Amazon, and Sephora required them to remove the product from Amazon if they wanted shelf space at Sephora, and the company did that. So retailing obviously is a critically important value generator if we are making our products available to consumers. And in class on Wednesday, we'll talk about several aspects of retailing. I'd like to go ahead and cover this topic of online retailing right now, and then we'll cover the others in class on Wednesday. Online retailing arguably is the most exciting and fastest growing part of retailing. It's one that you're probably very familiar with. It's rapidly changing, and producers are still struggling to understand how it fits in to the retailing equation versus brick and mortar. If you look at retail sales being $3.39 trillion, online sales are only a fraction of that, only 11.6%. And you might think, what's the big deal about that? Well, two things really. One is that 11.6% is growing very fast, much faster than retail sales overall. So that's going to increasingly be a major part of retail sales. But also, even when people don't buy online, even when they decide to buy at a brick and mortar location, oftentimes it's their web behavior that influences what they end up buying even in a brick and mortar store. People will go online, of course, to comparison shop or read reviews. Even if they don't buy online, they're going online to get information. So the online footprint, if you will, the influence it has over retail is even greater than the 11.6% of sales that actually happen there. Looking at mobile devices, only a very small part of retail sales happen on mobile devices. But again, people go use their mobile devices a lot to gain information about what they're going to buy, even at brick and mortar. In fact, it's estimated that 31% of retail sales are influenced by people going on their mobile devices to get information. Why do people shop online? Well, you probably know this better than anybody. There's a lot of good reasons. Time savings, more variety. That's an interesting point. That in the past, when brick and mortar prevailed in retail, a consumer was really limited only to what the stores in their neighborhood had available for sale, or maybe whatever catalogs they received in the mail. Now with online shopping, people can pretty much shop around the world and get a much greater variety of products. Lower prices, lower taxes are other reasons why people shop online. These factors aren't going to change and are only expected to accelerate the importance of online selling as a part of retail. The kind of products people buy online, it varies across the board. In terms of dollar volume, the highest category is computer and consumer electronics. Those products are very easy to compare online. They're very easy to buy online. They're generally pretty inexpensive to ship. Not surprisingly, that's the most popular category of online retailing. At the bottom there is food and beverage, which is still a small percentage, but as you know, and as we'll talk more about, food delivery and restaurant delivery are examples of online purchases of food and beverage that are going to make that number rise over time. Now, we talk primarily, when we're talking about retailing and online shopping, we talk primarily about consumers. By definition, retailing is selling to consumers. But this whole concept of online selling is very much a part of B2B selling as well. And just a couple of examples of how online shopping is penetrating the B2B space as well. First of all, part suppliers. A lot of business customers buy parts, either for their own production. They buy piece parts to assemble products for sale to their customers, or they use consumable products like lubricants and those kind of things for machinery in their production processes. Historically, those parts have been bought from big distributors like W.W. Grainger. You might have heard of them, and some other companies that sell B2B. They specialize in selling these parts to business customers. They have salespeople, these great big catalogs they've historically listed their products in. They have local stores that make products available to those business customers. Well, a lot of that's changing because Amazon, among others, is now selling many of these parts historically available only from these local distributors. And they threaten these businesses because the people that work at business customers, they are consumers too. In their personal life, they go on Amazon to buy products and they enjoy that experience. They want that same experience at work. Amazon is making that happen. As an example of the impact, W.W. Grainger's had to cut their prices by up to 25% recently after losing so many of their sales to Amazon. The hope for these distributors that sell to businesses, sell all these parts, is that the extra services they offer are things that Amazon can't match. For example, if you're a business and you're working on a new design of a factory, you could, and many of these companies do, just send their plans of their factory to these part suppliers, and the part suppliers will look at the plans and figure out what parts are required, and they'll kind of create the bill of sale for that business customer. Amazon could never do that. They don't have that kind of experience. So these distributors, they know they're going to lose some of the commodity type parts to Amazon, but their hope is they can add enough value in other ways to stay relevant and continue to add value to customers in the B2B space. Also, quickly, Amazon is getting into hospital supplies, things that are used to treat patients and used in surgery and so forth. Typically, today, hospitals have relationships directly with the producers of these medical supplies or with one of 4 distributors that are out there, McKesson being one of those. One of the hospital purchasing agents said that it's a little different than being out of a size 6 dress when you're in the hospital business. I can't be out of a size 6 French catheter. Those types of things are required, in urgent situations, and it's just not an option not to have that product. And there's a concern about companies like Amazon being able to have reliable supply. Amazon, though, is trying to step up. They realize that whenever a hospital buys supplies from a traditional medical supplier, that 20 to 30% of the price they pay are a lot of costs that might be able to be stripped out with the Amazon model. And so Amazon's trying to exploit that as well. So again, this is a bit of a diversion from the topic of retailing. But while we were discussing online selling, I just wanted to mention that's not limited to consumer retail sales. It's very much a part of B2B selling as well. Obviously, the success that online selling and online retailing is having is impacting brick and mortar retailing. And in fact, if you look at some data that suggests that foot traffic to brick and mortar stores is declining, the amount of new retail space that's opening up in a brick and mortar format is declining as well. This is kind of an interesting graphic here. A traditional measure of the productivity of brick and mortar stores is sales per square foot. And this chart here shows how many stores and what percentage of the stores would have to be closed for these various retail chains in order to get back to the same level of sales per square foot they had 10 years ago. And the message here is that because of online shopping and because there's been such an impact on brick and mortar selling, that we have far too many retail brick and mortar stores in the U.S. And the Wall Street Journal video mentioned that. Stores that have traditionally sold brick and mortar obviously are taking notice of this, Home Depot being one. For decades, Home Depot grew by opening up more stores. That was their model. They'd open up a new store, customers would flock to it, and their sales would increase. But because of online shopping and because the fact that many customers now prefer to do that, Home Depot has actually pretty much stopped opening up new stores over the last few years. And instead, with HomeDepot.com, they've jumped into online selling to consumers themselves. One of the benefits Home Depot has of doing that is they can offer many more products. Whenever Home Depot opens a store, for example, in Austin, they are limited in terms of space. Real estate's very expensive in cities like Austin. It's also expensive to build a building that's consumer friendly with wide aisles and air conditioning and lots of staffing there. So because of that, only a relatively small number of items, 35,000 typically, can be available in a retail store. But when Home Depot sells online, they can sell many more products. They can take this facility and instead of putting it in a high-cost area like Austin, they can put it out in the middle of nowhere where land is very cheap. They can also have a much bigger building, a much bigger structure, a warehouse that doesn't have all the consumer amenities. It might not even be air conditioned. Because of that, it's much lower cost, and Home Depot can inventory many more SKUs, perhaps 600,000. So now they can offer many more products for sale when they're selling online as opposed to in a brick and mortar fashion. One of the challenges they have with their supply chain is how to deliver some of the big, heavy, bulky things that people want to buy online, like jacuzzi tubs or patio furniture. Even restaurants are moving online. There's increasingly restaurants that don't have a dining room. They exist online only. They only way to be a customer of theirs is to go to an app like Grubhub and place an order for delivery. Because it's much less expensive to open an online restaurant and not have the expense of a dining room and all the staffing, it's expected that the survival rate of restaurants that use this model will be much higher because their capital investment is so much less. One part of the article talks about the fact that from a restaurant, if you look at their expenses, 30 cents out of every dollar goes into labor, like waiters and bartenders. That cost is only 10 cents on the dollar when you have an online restaurant without that dining room and without customers in-house. So much lower costs. It allows restaurants to scale beyond the number of tables that they have in their dining room. So even restaurants have seen the benefits of selling online, and they are. Online sellers are also adapting the product itself in order to conform to some of the differences of online selling. For example, Victoria's Secret is developing products with a simpler type of sizing that allows customers to purchase confidently online without the need to go into a store and try on the item. Walmart is encouraging their suppliers to start packaging products in bulk packages rather than a package with quantity 1 of an item. Instead, make that quantity 6 or quantity 12. That allows more efficient shipping. It reduces shipping as a percent of the total purchase price and allows Walmart to be more profitable when selling online and shipping product. And as you might expect, Amazon is encouraging their suppliers to adapt their products and packaging as well. For example, toy companies typically have packaged their toys in very elaborate packaging with many colors and cutouts in the package to show different features of the product. That was important when the products were being sold on a shelf at a brick and mortar store. It is in that location where the customers typically make their purchase decision. Online, however, when Amazon sells a product, the customer makes their purchase decision based on not the packaging, but the online listing. So by the time it's time to ship the product to the customer, the decision's already been made. Therefore, Amazon is encouraging suppliers not to spend a lot of money on that elaborate packaging, which might cost $2 or $3 per toy, but instead just package it in a plain brown box. And Amazon can put a label on that and ship it as it is. As a result, costs go down, and Amazon can demand lower prices from their suppliers. So that concludes this introduction to the second part of channel marketing. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or call me. Otherwise, we will pick up the discussion in the next class.